My name is Dante and this is Story Hub. Am I an idiot for keeping a doctor's appointment secret from my husband when my stepdaughter asked me to? I, female 44, married my husband, male 47, nearly 12 years ago and gained an amazing 5-year bonus daughter, Mary. Mary's mom died of cervical, ovarian cancer when Mary was barely a year old. They didn't catch it until she was halfway into her pregnancy. And by then she didn't want to risk losing her baby to chemo, so she put off treatment until after birth, but by then they could only buy her time. Obviously this was pretty traumatic for my husband, and Mary has been in therapy since before I knew her to help with that loss as well. Mary is now almost 17 and we're really close. I never officially adopted her, though I offered. But I never needed a piece of paper to tell me I loved her as if she did come from me. We see musicals, take art classes, go shopping, out for coffee, to get our nails done, go hiking, etc. together because we genuinely enjoy hanging out. She's the best and only kid I'll ever have. 2-ish weeks ago, Mary and I were at the nail salon when she nervously asked me to help her make an appointment with an OBGYN. Mary is almost never nervous. She told me immediately after she had her first kiss, so it piqued my interest, but I said of course I would and asked if she had any specific issues or concerns. She has been dating a boy for about 7.5 months, so I thought maybe she wanted birth control. But she explained how she'd found and looked through some of her mom's hospital medical records, and it scared her enough that she wanted to get screened as soon as possible for cervical, ovarian, uterine cancer. She also asked that I not tell her dad right away because she didn't want to drag up any negative feelings. She wanted to tell him herself after she'd been seen. I took this as Mary wanting to be more independent and autonomous, so I acquiesced, made the appointment, and left it at that. This past week was her appointment, and at her request, I accompanied her to the office but waited in the car. Afterwards, she had a business card for a genetic counselor that the doctor recommended and was talking about possibly wanting to get a genetic screening to find out her cancer risk. When we got home, she went to find my husband in his study and they were in there for a while talking. When they came out, Mary gave him a big hug and then my husband asked me if we could speak in private. Once we were alone, he was so pissed off at me for not telling him about the appointment and keeping it a secret. I tried to explain that Mary had asked me to and wanted to tell him herself, so I was just respecting her wishes, but that wasn't a good enough excuse. To him, she is still his child, and all doctor's appointments need to be run by him beforehand and not after it's been had. I apologized, but he just said that now he doesn't know what other secrets you girls are hiding from him and has been sleeping on the couch in his office the past couple nights. Am I an idiot for not telling him right away? Not an idiot, but only because she was just going in to be proactive and get some testing done. If there was a serious issue with his daughter's health and you didn't tell him, then I would understand his reaction. Not the idiot. Mary is 17 and it's more than reasonable for a young woman to want to have conversations about womanhood with the older women she is closest with in her family. I can totally relate to Mary. Dad will hopefully come around and be thankful you have been a woman she can trust in her life. Not the idiot. Certain problems are easier to talk about with a parent of the same gender, even if it is a step-parent. Does he really think if he had a stepson he'd want to go to his mom about a sex-related medical problem? And you've been a mother for her for 12 years. Also, he needs to get over it, because the next time Mary has something like this, she might not tell either of you. She won't tell her dad because she's naturally uncomfortable, and she won't tell you because she doesn't want to piss him off. And the consequences of that could be way worse. And come on, of course a stepmother and her stepdaughter have some secrets the dad doesn't know about. Now for the next story. Am I an idiot for letting my nephew go into foster care? My sister is kind of a waste of skin. I love her, but I could make money betting against any decision she makes. Our mom set up a college fund for her. She didn't bother going. She had an opportunity to buy a house 15 years ago and decided to go on a trip around the world. She got pregnant in South Africa from some guy she was working with on a yacht. She didn't bother coming home until she was 5 months pregnant. She stayed for 4 years and then left again, but her son stayed with our mom. I was in school when she did this. My mom ended up having to use my college fund to help raise my nephew. I managed to get financial aid and completed my college with only about $30 in loans. I moved out and moved to another city. I love my mom, but that kid is out of control and not my problem. My mother has recently been diagnosed with a condition that means she will very soon be unable to care for herself, much less my nephew. She called me to ask if I would be willing to accept guardianship of my nephew. I very politely said fuck no. No one else in the family is willing to take him either. The kid has burned a lot of bridges, at least one literally at my uncle's ranch. My mom is worried that he will end up in foster care. I am still bitter about having to go into debt because of my sister's decisions and my mom coddling her. I know the kid needs counseling and love, but I just can't find it in myself to provide that. I have a pretty great life and I am not interested in throwing a wrench into the gears. I have reached out to my sister, but she is in South America working. She says she is getting her life together and cannot come back right now. My mom is telling me how important family is. She says she understands why I feel like I do, but she is still disappointed with me. My sister says I'm an idiot for not helping her and her son. I think contributing my college fund against my will was enough. I could afford to take on the kid. If I get legal guardianship, I could put him on my health insurance and maybe get him counseling. But I'm just not interested in turning my life upside down. Not an idiot. If you're not committed to bearing the responsibility, you shouldn't be obligated to do so, especially for something as life-changing as this. Your sister should finally act like a mother and take care of her child. Obligation is a huge factor. Anyone who is not committed to bearing the responsibility of raising a child absolutely should not even consider taking responsibility for the child. Kids need to be in the care of people who love the child as their own and are 100% committed to making the child a part of their family. Gotta have love. Having a child only because of obligation is never the way to go. It helps no one. The child will suffer more than anyone. Not an idiot. Shocked by even some of the softer the idiots. It is not your responsibility to raise someone else's kid, period. I could maybe see if your sister had died, but she's alive and could come back to the country her kid lives in and take care of him herself. Instead says she is getting her life together and cannot come back right now. No, just no. Not an idiot. The authorities should be chasing the mother for abandoning the boy. Your mother did a good thing, but it's not your responsibility to take on the child just because your sister is an oxygen thief. It sounds like he needs some professional help, and if you take him in and are not able to provide that for him, then it's just bad for both of you. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling my son's GF that I refuse to accept her mental illness excuses anymore? My son, 21, started dating Amber, a female 21, 3 years ago, and at the end of 2021 she moved into my house. I allowed it for the sake of my son's mental health or feelings. Her parents were moving out of state and she didn't have any friends or family she could stay with here. I watched my son cry for weeks because his GF had no choice but to move away with her parents, and ultimately Mama Bear came out and protected my son the only way I knew how. So, she moved in, but I made it perfectly clear to both my son and Amber that I fully expected rent payments to cover food and the extra hot water cost. I was only going to charge exactly what the extra cost would have been, which was roughly $400, and also stated that Amber was to get a job. Both of them agreed to this. I even put it in writing and had it filled out as a tenancy agreement so that they could get their own place afterwards and have references for rental history. So the lease was all signed, stamped, and notarized. In the first couple of months it really appeared like Amber was trying to get a job, but after that she just stopped giving a frick. If I asked if she had rent, she would immediately be like, "You know I don't," and just shrugged it off. My son was paying the entire rent by himself, which, whatever, if he wants to do that then that's on him. But it was the lack of caring and the complete taking advantage of the situation that pissed me off. After about 7 months I sat Amber down and reminded her of my agreement and told her she was walking on thin ice, and that I was fed up with her not even attempting to hold up her end of the deal. She then pulled the "I understand where you're coming from, but try to be sympathetic about the fact that I haven't seen my parents in months, and I'm struggling to even get out of bed." I did sympathize with this. I even offered to get her into therapy. She said she would when she felt she was mentally ready. Yeah, that time never came, but the excuses stuck. It's always a different excuse, but usually has something to do with missing her parents. Well, this month I saw that my hot water bill skyrocketed by an extra $300. It then came to my attention that Amber has been showering 3 times a day because standing under the scalding water is the only thing that takes away my sadness. At this point I was done. I'm forking out an extra $700 a month with no help from her, and my son is struggling to pay her portion because he is in college. So I again told her she needed a job. She pulls the "I'm so depressed I can barely drag myself out of bed. I can't work outside of this house." I snapped and said I refuse to accept her millions of mental illness excuses anymore, and either she finds a job within the month or I'm canceling her lease and she can get the frick out. She ran to the room crying and slammed the door. Am I an idiot? Not an idiot. Going to get downvoted here, but whatever. She's taking advantage of you at this point. An extra $700 is a lot of money, and when it's month after month something has to give unless you get it like that. Honestly, your son would have had to have his cry and eventually he would move on and meet someone new, as I wouldn't have taken her in to begin with. That was very generous of you. Her moving could have been the best thing for her, but no one knows. Honestly, it appears as she just really doesn't want to work. Not an idiot. Any mental illness is an explanation but not an excuse. I doubt she even has a mental health issue but is really just lazy. Amber needs to go, and now she has broken the lease, so it is time to evict her. Your son will need to cope with it, just as any adult needs to cope with life's changing situations. Not an idiot. You are the landlord, not her parents. Really, you need to sit them both down and have a talk about responsibilities. And perhaps have a private parental talk with your son to see how he feels about things. If her mental health is so poor that she can't work, she needs to go through the process to get disability. And if she is unable or unwilling to do this, suggest her parents support her, either by her going to them or them gifting her money to cover her responsibilities. As someone who has lived with depression, anxiety my entire adult life and held down full-time jobs, I detest people who use mental health as an excuse to freeload. Now for the last story. Am I an idiot for not wanting to help pay for my friend's wedding? I have a close friend from college who's getting married next year, and she's been asking for my help to contribute to her wedding. I think it's sweet that she's thinking of me, but I don't think it's a good idea for me to help out financially. My friend and I have been close for a few years now, and I'm happy for her. She is struggling financially, and they have asked that instead of wedding gifts, people can donate to parts of their wedding ceremony. There's a registry and everything, like table flowers and stuff. I know she's trying to save as much money as possible for certain reasons unrelated to the wedding, but I just don't think it's right for me to be helping her out with the costs at this time. I'm a recent doctorate candidate. Soon, I'm currently writing a memoir, and I don't know when I will have time to get a job. Anything I give is just that much less time I can live on my own, even if I could afford it. I don't think it's fair that I should have to help out when I know her fiancé already has a job and could definitely get another, and some of his friends seem well off. I tried to explain my financial situation to my friend, but she's still asking for help, even a little. She suggested that I could contribute a much smaller amount than others, but I still don't think it's a good idea. I told her that if I was in a better financial situation I would be more than happy to help out, but right now it just isn't possible. My friend got really mad at me and said that I was selfish, and that she expected more from me. Our group of friends all pledged to help pay for each other's weddings back in college, and she says that since she helped pay for my wedding, $550, that I should help her out, even if it's just $20. She is also threatening to tell our group of friends, just because all of them contributed to my wedding. But she completely ignores the fact that my marriage didn't last even 1 year. I don't want to lose her friendship, and I really don't want her to tell our friends. My financial situation is private. More importantly, I also don't want to be taken advantage of. Am I an idiot for not wanting to help pay for her wedding? You're an idiot. Well, I'm glad I withheld my judgment until I got to the end. I'm sticking with her, the idiot, because you didn't slip in until the second to last paragraph that the reason why she's asking you is because she contributed over $500 to your wedding. And now that it's your turn to chip in, you don't want to give her a red cent. You said she was also asking for help with things like decorations. What have you offered to contribute for labor, since you are unable to give a single cent? Because you are busy being a not yet doctoral student and writing a memoir. You're an idiot and you deserve to be called out. Your friend group all pledged to help with each other's weddings and they all helped you, but now you are backing out of a pledge you've already taken advantage of. It doesn't matter that your marriage didn't last. You still kept your friend group to their word and they all stepped and honored that agreement, but now that you have gotten what you wanted out of it, you can't even find a small amount to keep a promise you made. You're an idiot. She contributed $550 to your wedding that didn't even last a year. The least you could do is help with at least $100 or volunteer to help with the wedding, such as clean up, etc. You said her fiancé can get an extra job. Why can't you get a job? Seems like you're just lazy and not even a good friend.